candidates who were invited to take part in this debate right now are not stepping up on the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an extremely peculiar situation right now.
Well, that was the scene last night in Florida where Governor Rick Scott did end up, after 7 minutes, finally getting onto the stage and debating former Governor Charlie Crist. But the debate did not come without delay, and here's why. And you couldn't make this up if you tried here.
Governor Crist has asked to have a fan, a small fan, placed underneath his podium. The rules of the debate that I was shown by the Scott campaign say that there should be no fan. And for that reason, ladies and gentlemen, I am being told that Governor Scott will not join us for this debate.
So the rules that the Scott campaign just showed us that says that no electronics can be used, including
Are we really going to
fan?
debate about a fan, or are we going to talk about education and the environment and the future of our state? I mean, really. There are serious issues facing our state.
This is not a platform for one candidate. We're hoping that Governor Scott will join us on the stage.
First of all, Dominic, we've moderated things. When you're the moderator and this happens here, you're getting yelled at in your ear.
It has happened. The story's never been told publicly, but with Elliot Spitzer, one debate that I was moderating, and I forgot who the challenger was, but the rules, and they're very serious, these campaigns, about the rules. As you know, as the moderator, you're not really involved in that. I can care less about the rules. It's only once we get up to perform. And Spitzer's people said, if he walks out with that notebook, I'm not coming on stage. And I said, what? And he said, and for about a minute. And so I didn't say anything publicly, and then he took the stage. But if I'm the opponent, I would have raised the same sand, because
the fan issue?
Yeah,
you would raise the fan issue?
Yes, because you're looking for any possible edge. And if my rival's going to start sweating, wait. If my rival's going to start sweating in the middle of a debate, that gives me an edge.
Let me explain about edges. When you get an edge and you use it to cut your own throat, it's not the right kind of edge.
No.
He looked like an idiot.
I would have did exactly the same thing.
Okay, but Dom, do you agree with me that how it plays out today, Rick Scott looks like an infant?
Yes, okay. I do admit that. Okay. But I would have had my campaign manager who would have been fired if you didn't stand firm on our position.
Rick Scott looked like an infant last night, and I would have suggested he do exactly the same thing that made him look like an infant.
You know, this is consultantships gone wacky. And this is also journalists making decisions, which they're not qualified to do.
How dare you? Wait, you always know this.
I'm going to hold out for as long as I can.
But you've seen enough campaigns here. Can you imagine what was going on backstage with the Scott campaign? I'm sure his wife was yelling one thing out, or the campaign manager was yelling another, and he's like, do I get out there or not?
But Richard, he wants to be reelected as governor.
Yeah.
So this is an illustration of how he makes decisions and how he decides. Am I going to be petulant over a little matter, or am I going to be larger? Am I going to stand up and say, okay, this guy's going to break the rules, and we'll get that out afterwards, but I'm going to be the larger person.
Do you get a 30-second spot out today about the fan?
Oh, absolutely. If I can afford it, I do it.
I'm not sure you need to. I think he's getting enough free press, and Scott's getting bashed enough in the free media that I'm not sure Chris needs to spend the money.
You know, one thing, Andrew, on the national platform we've seen is the president he's done some events and stuff, but it's almost more notable where he's not showing up than where he is, and we're hearing a lot, even on the record, let alone off the record, about camps that say, whatever you do, maybe do a fundraiser, but don't show up and campaign for me. That's very real, isn't it?
It's very real. I mean, Daniel Malloy, he was going to visit Malloy in Connecticut yesterday, and he stayed in Washington because of the Ebola issue. But that's one of the few campaigns that we've seen that actually want the president there. And to my mind, we've been through this before. We've been through this before with Al Gore and Bill Clinton, and he doesn't want Clinton near him. We've been through this before in 2010 and 2012 with health care, and Democrats don't want to run on health care. That's your record. That's your party. Run on it and defend it.
Have had the same problem with unpopular incumbents. This happens all the time. It's no big deal, except insofar as that the unpopularity itself actually is going to affect turnout.
But gentlemen, is the goal to win or is the goal to make a political statement? I mean, let's say I love Obama for argument's sake. With his poll numbers, he's not coming next to me either. And I think the White House would understand that. Is the goal to win or just to play politics?
I don't think anybody disagrees with that.
Okay.
Where a president is unpopular, you keep him home. The notion that the difference here is that this president has been successfully victimized.
Demonized.
You'll get your turn.
Okay, okay.
By a litany of things that started with the birthers and now go to the question.
Okay, but Andrew made a different point, though, which is, look at the reason we just said that people asked them to stay home 2 years ago. It was health care. Do Democrats, will they look back and say, you know what? If I had to do this thing over again, I would have ran on health care, because more people actually like it than don't, depending on when you look at the polls. If I can find a way to say, hey, imagine you were sick and you didn't have health care, what would have happened to you? Are they going to regret, you think, down the road saying, you know what, maybe this isn't something we should have ran away from?
Yeah, they panicked when things were at the bottom, when lies were being told. Now that it's successful by most measures, they're onto something different. It's not been well handled.
Andrew, where I think is also a little different than, and Rich is right, it's Republican, Democrat, and there is a Democrat that everybody wants to run with. It's not that they keep the president away. The former president, Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton, they can't do enough to get him to come. So it's a strange dynamic where, you know, people will say, we saw this one thing in Kentucky where Grimes wouldn't admit who she voted for in the last presidential election, but she said, I'm fully behind Hillary. You know, it's a weird kind of mix.
Well, that's one of the reasons why you tie yourself up in knots when you're trying to basically distance yourself from the leader of your own party. The one upside with the Clintons is that you can still essentially run on the Obama agenda, because so much of the agenda seemed to be so close to one another that you can say, well, healthcare reform and some of the other reforms that Obama was pushing for, Wall Street reform, if those policies were put in place, they can actually work. But Republican obstructionism has blocked that from happening.
We talked a lot on the show about outside money here, but it was interesting. Steve Israel from Long Island, a congressman, he's also chair of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. He's blasting outside Democratic groups for their lack of support. Israel says the Dems have always relied on outside groups for funding, and support is low ahead of the elections in a couple weeks. This has Republicans have a strong chance of keeping, obviously, not just control of the House, but taking back the Senate. Israel says, quote, it's frustrating that the cavalry that has always been there doesn't seem to be there. My point is that we still have 20 days, and that's an eternity for outside groups to mount up the cavalry and get them to the Hill. Have you heard these complaints from other Democrats? We all complained, Democrats did, about the outside money, and now they're like, hey, where is it?
Yeah, well, I think the Democrats were doing an extraordinary job of raising all of this outside money and then spending it as well. And that's what's kept us competitive in a lot of these Senate seats. But the real issue, as I see it, and I think Richard was about to talk about this, is turnout. And that's where the president's not being on the campaign trail really hurts Democrats, because he has always been extraordinarily good at driving up turnout. And in these off-year elections, the people who don't go to the polls tend to vote Democratic. With him not getting up there and reminding people, hey, you like me, you voted for me, and see what they've done, those people are going to stay home, and that's really going to hurt.
Are you surprised that I thought I'd hear about minimum wage, living wage, and about women's issues? I thought I wouldn't be able to turn on the TV without hearing these issues. It's almost like the Democrats expect voters to remember it for themselves.
Well,
I'm surprised
I can tell you
about that.
in Syracuse, where we have a media market where we have 3 fairly contested congressional seats, there's incredibly scurrilous negative ads, and then ads saying I'm pro-woman, I'm for the Paycheck Equality Act, he's not, I'm pro-choice, he's pro-life. So it seems like he's pro-ISIS and I'm pro-women, and that's what the debate is. And obviously voters
pro-ISIS?
Those are and
We've
I'm not
made news on RFL again.
I said he is pro-ISIS, and that is really what the debate has sort of degenerated into, unfortunately.
Interesting. And as always, everybody, we're going to ask you this question. question, and Andrew was talking about the Obamas and the Clintons, if you will. Answer our question tonight. Who has the most here important voice in Democratic politics, not just for the next 20 days, but arguably from now through 2016 here, and we'll be getting to those results and comments coming up. Okay, when we come back though, colleges and universities across the country adopting a new sexual consent policy. Some say it makes sense and is a step in the right direction. Others, though, say not so much. Our panel will weigh in on that and more after the break.